Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Hello. Hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you all had a lot of food. Were able to stuff yourselves. But we gotta come back to reality, as in basically just like do a little bit of prep and
Yeah,
cleansing before Christmas ruins your diet once again. It's time to talk about some cars. Time to talk about your fave
this
cars.
is this is
Fractured
the
in Alteric Valley.
this is
Okay.
the setup episode for next week's giant, many hours long traditional card review where we go over every card and give you their score one by one, or I guess now we give you their letter grade, not their like numerical score. And this one's gonna be freaking great because the card dump already happened. I don't think anyone was expecting it to happen when it did. I just looked at my phone at one point and it was like 16 hours ago. It says they released all the cards 8 hours ago. What? But yeah, everything's out now and it looks ridiculous. Like the what we talked about last week about the couple of ridiculous cards that we already knew about and how it's going to be a new power level, and we were wondering if these were just the isolated super good cards or if the whole set was going to be like that. A lot of the set is like that.
Yeah. Look, we talked a little bit about the power level, and we were saying, like, we couldn't be definitive last week, but we can be definitive now. It's pretty crazy. So a lot of the things that we talked about last week in terms of the wild rotation or the current rotation system that they have being untenable, and how we can't really have that anymore. It
Yeah.
just really rings true.
I wonder what
Uh,
they're going to do. Like, does anyone know what rotation is happening? Like, has this information been like released or tweeted at least?
It has, to my knowledge, not been released anywhere. And what once again, this is the reason we're like, oh, we're not sure, is because sometimes this information is released through a random interview here, a random
Yeah.
reply to a tweet there. But we do try to stay on top of these things. I am on Twitter quite a lot,
Yeah,
so
I haven't seen
I
anything on it.
do not see anything on that. And my fear is that when this comes out, you're going to have like, if not actually a Witchwood. Like I always use Witchwood as like a weak set, right? They're gonna have a Witchwood. They're gonna have like a Rostakon's Rumble, which is just like, not very impressive
Hmm.
in there. But it was super cool earlier this week to see Dreads and Redbeard reveal 11 cards. That's a ton. Going from revealing 0 cards, and for really the arena community to, revealing 0 cards. And I don't count like Crip revealing a card as like, hey, arena streamers got it's just Crip, right? For example. But a dedicated arena streamer, uh, or actually 2 dedicated arena
Hmm.
streamers in Dreads and Redbeard got to reveal 11 cards. I thought they did a great job with it. If you want to see those cards, you can head on over to Dreads' YouTube, uh, DREADS, and it was posted like almost a week ago. You can see all 11 of the cards. You can see their reactions. They definitely take a very arena centric viewpoint. They try to point out some cards that it's analogous to and how this card could potentially be used. So I thought that was pretty cool. They got a lot of viewers as well. I thought that it was received pretty well. People were just confused. They're like, "Who are these guys? Why do they have so many cards? Is this like the official reveal stream?" And no, like that was far from it. But once again, props to Blizzard for doing this so fast. Props to Alkali, who I think
Hmm.
really spearheaded this. But the entire Blizzard team, by doing this, I think that they were eating into a portion of their like Thanksgiving break because they were all off. So just really cool. And I think that with a very short period of time to really coordinate this stuff, everyone pulled it off from Blizzard to Dreads and Redbeard. And I'm just hoping we see more of this in the future because the cards that we saw, I thought they were super exciting. And if you were an
Hmm.
arena player, I think you would also consider that it's like, oh man, these are really, really impactful cards. I'm going to be drafting a lot of them, and these probably won't get played in constructed. Maybe one, maybe two, but the vast majority, as with just the vast majority of all cards, won't be played. And that's fine for us because no matter how shitty the card is, someone's going to draft it somewhere. And for most cards, you're going to see it a lot. It just replay is going to reveal that it's like, oh, 50,000 people have drafted this card and used it. You can give us anything, and we will be able to analyze it.
Yep. So glad Blizzard is finally going ahead and doing this, and looking forward to them continuing to do this and getting some arena-centric card reveals. There's no reason for them not to do reveals for like all 135 cards that they do in one capacity or another. It's just free promo, and there's people that follow all this stuff, right? Like, it's not like the only people watching Dreads and Redbeard do the review are arena players. They're also the dedicated people and the super Hearthstone fanboys who they want to see what the next card is, right? Like, it doesn't even matter if they're not going to use it in a legitimate deck. It's shiny, it's new. You get to see the art, right? There's all these things that go with it.
I think it's just cool, yeah. Because a card dump isn't exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, people might want that information right away, but you are kind of like taking an opportunity away from a content creator to create some content. And it also does, just take away from the hype a little bit. So this is really, really awesome. And to give it to, I know Alkali wanted to focus on the arena community and give it to them. So this was just smart on their part as well.
Yep. Yeah, so looking forward to that happening in future expansions, and I don't know what they do with mini sets. The mini sets, in my opinion, are like the worst promoted things ever. No one knows when they drop. No one knows what cards are going to be in. The devs barely talk about it until after the fact, and then all of a sudden they're there. Like, you don't have to make a big promo out of it, but you got to do something. Like, is it actually like too much work for them and not worth the payoff to do like a week of promos before a mini set? Isn't that the whole point of the mini set? Like, they put work on it. Like, mini set cards are cards. They're just like expansion cards. And there's, I don't know, a whole bunch of them. It's what, like a third of an expansion, a quarter of an expansion? I don't know how much exactly, but it's a decent, it's not like, oh, we're just adding 5 new cards to the game, right? Like, it's a decent amount. So we'll see what they're doing about it, but it's really exciting to see Blizzard have this kind of new change in philosophy and change in direction with their how they're doing the pre-launch events. Yeah, so let's talk about the, I guess, the future. Not the future, but more like the immediate future. Like, what's going to actually happen a week from now. A little over a week from now when the expansion drops. We may or may not get a new rotation. I expect we will get a new rotation. We're going to get all these cards, and a lot of them are going to be more powerful than any cards that have existed in the game before that is still legal in the arena. Enough of them that you don't need something like Watch Post, which is a neutral common, to destroy the arena. You could just have it be like a dozen class cards, right? Like, if you have a dozen class cards, that's going to show up more often than one Watch Post. And they're going to combine to kind of create not one boogeyman in the arena that they can ban, but a lot of different boogeymen, which may be more difficult to kind of have people complain about all at once, because it's very easy to be like, this card's ridiculous, I see it every game, this is bad. It's a lot harder to be like, oh, here are 12 cards that I see all the time, and all of them are bad. People will do it if they are that impactful in the arena, which I think it's highly unlikely that they won't be. But I am really curious what Blizzard's going to do. Because if they do nothing but try to hit the button, and the button doesn't actually reduce these cards to effectively banning them, like, Arena's still going to be crazy. So, like, I'm just really interested in what they're doing. Like, when this is coming out, and what their reaction is going to be. Because everyone's told them about the problem already. They know this is coming. They know that come Tuesday, this is what Arena is going to be like. And so I'm wondering what the first update is going to entail.
Yeah, it's problematic because we've seen Blizzard, they're good at when you identify one card, right? Like they're good at eventually responding,
Mm-hmm.
banning, doing something to it. Um, but it is easier for any company to
Mm-hmm.
dismiss criticism as just like, like people will kind of always complain about something, right? When a meta is problematic because of vastly different power levels and a ton of cards just being a little bit too like I win immediately. Which is what we are seeing with this expansion. There's too many class cards that are too powerful, and it's a additive effect because you add these cards onto the cards that we already have, which some are very, very powerful. I mean, we can talk about righteous defense even more than we already have because it is just that strong. That mage 5 mana spell that like excess damage creates a minion. We don't even really talk about that. People don't really talk about that because it's like you're so tired talking about Goliath, and now it's like
Mm-hmm.
these new cards. And if you look at that card and you're asking, it's like, well, is that okay? It's like, no, that's not really okay. Like I am not okay with that being in arena
Mm-hmm.
because that thing is a little bit too strong. And I think if you ask most people, it's like, do you think that card should exist in arena? Most people will be like, no, because that's definitely too strong. Um, so yeah, you have like problematic stuff that's not even talked about. So this is already beginning to, I think you can see the issue. It's like people are going to be talking about a lot of cards. It's going to be hard to single out just one. And even when we only have like a few, you can already see the cards that just aren't being talked about enough. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if Blizzard is hearing enough about righteous
They're
defense.
not. And they're not
I don't
hearing about
know
it
if
not
they're
because of the win
hearing,
rate. They're not hearing about it
yeah.
because everyone's talking about Goliath, like you said. So
Yeah, and I don't think anybody is really raising enough of a hubbub, understandably so, about the mage spell. Like, um, so it's problematic. It really is problematic. And I don't exactly know what the solution is going to be because it's going to just end up being kind of a bad experience. Like, look, people asked me after Goliath got banned, "Hey Merps, are you going to be playing Arena again?" And I told them I was like, it's going to be a wait and see for me." This is immediately after Goliath got banned. I was like, "It's going to be a wait and see for me because banning Deep Run Engineer, not even Goliath, just banning Deep Run Engineer. Goliath wasn't the only issue.
mhm.
Banning Deep Run Engineer is like it's a simple, but it's not the best solution. It's not one that I would have done, but I understand why they did it that way. And then I was like, okay, I'll see how Arena is after this. And then I see Dreads play it, and I'm just like, oh, no, I definitely don't want to play in this meta
I mean,
still.
this meta is the most terrible meta still. That hasn't changed. It just became a little bit more playable than it was before the ban. Like, I mean, I straight up got, I think, 3 runs in a row that were 1-3 or 0-3. And
Oh
I
yeah,
knew
it's
that was going to happen, or at least I knew that had
possible.
like at least a 25% chance of happening for each of those runs right after the draft. Um, because that's how these games are now. Like after the draft, you know how good your deck is, and you know that your odds of potentially facing not normal decks is pretty high, even a 0-0, even a 0-1. Less likely a 0-2. But this is just what happens in this meta, and this is an event meta, right? This is dual class, but the dual class part is not even really what's driving this. That's the problem. The problem isn't like with this meta right now, isn't that, oh, you have dual class, so you have all these ridiculous combos that should never exist in the first place. That's not the problem. No one's using ridiculous combos, not no one, but the ridiculous combo percentage is only slightly higher than it was before dual class. The problem are individual cards, individual legendaries, individual just ridiculously bonkers cards combine with the opposite which is that you're filling your deck with at least 3, if not more, of super subpar cards from old sets. Because you have to, and your opponent probably has to too. And just whoever draws what and how they can be played in a game will 100% determine your win and losses, assuming both players are like 5-win players or above.
Yep. And look, I know we talk about it. It's like, oh, this is unfun. That's unfun. And some people, understandably, also give us a response like, well, fun is subjective. It's like, not really. Fun isn't as subjective as you
There's a
think it is.
range, right?
Yeah, there's a
Within which
range.
it's subjective. Within types, it's subjective. But there's definitely unfun. Something I
Yes.
can point to and say, this is unfun for 95% plus of Hearthstone players. I could do that. And the developers can do that. And if this were not the arena, if this were like, let's say, Mercenaries or like a game that they're actually designing, right? Because arena is kind of just whatever happens, right? But if this is an actual game that they're actually designing, all the game developers, that's literally a big part of their job, is to point at these things and be like, no, that's not fun. That's not going to be fun. We shouldn't do that.
Right. So look, we're at the point right now where I'm hoping Blizzard isn't kind of I'm hoping they see the issue correctly, as in this current problem. It's not dual class. Dual class makes
Yeah.
things, crazy,
Worse.
definitely, but the displeasure that people are feeling, and if I've been watching people play the arena, and they are frustrated. They are not happy. And the situation that you were talking about as well, in which you can get easily 2 to 3 runs of like 1 win. Throw a 0 win in there. Throw like a 2 win in there as well. That can definitely happen, and the occurrence of that is quite high. And the sad thing is, you watch someone draft a deck and they go 0-3, and they just like call it out beforehand. They're like, "Yeah, I think this has a good chance of just going 0-3." It's very like very defeatist, and that really sucks. Like, so when we talk about there are things that are strictly unfun, man, that is unfun, right?
And the thing is, that's never happened to the arena before. Like, I've never been able to say that. Like, every single deck historically that I have ever drafted, I think maybe less than 1% of them will I say, I don't think this is going to make it to 5 wins, guys. I'm just very confident that I can get it to 5-win average on, not that I always get to 5 wins, obviously, but that on average, even the worst of decks that I am drafting, because I'll mitigate if the deck is going poorly, like, most of the way through. Like, I'm gonna get it to 5 wins on like some mix of like, skill and just like having mitigated my catastrophe drafts. In this meta, in this drafting, and this was the case from the beginning once they swapped this rotation in, deep run engineer or no deep run engineer, it was just always impossible. And deep run engineer made the problem much worse, and I'm glad they got rid of it. But the type of problem is still there, right? Like, Goliath is an S tier card. Deep Run Engineer made Goliath an even bigger problem, but Ysera's still in there. And Ysera is not even that bad compared to some of these class legendaries that we have, which are not even that bad compared to some of these class rares or epics that we have. And this is going back to the beginning of this. This is the problem. And what Merps is saying is that no one's talking about it, or not no one's talking about it, but no one's not coherently, no one's cohesively. The arena community is not cohesively talking about it because it's hard to talk about. This is no longer watch post. We knew it was going to be bad before they published it. They published it. It went exactly as we expected. Come on, Blizzard. And then Blizzard says something like, we may or may not be removing watch post because we can't remove every single card. Then you'll just ban the next best card. And we're like, this is bullshit. Like, clearly this is bullshit. This is watch post. You have stats. Go look at your stats. And then they banned it, right? Like, didn't take too long for them to ban it after they looked at its stats. They can't do this here. In Alterac, once this expansion launches, they cannot go and ban the worst card or the worst 2 cards because what they said back earlier in the year is actually true now. In this set, If you ban the worst offender in the arena meta, then the next worst offender is going to be the worst offender. You're going to have to ban that. Then the next worst offender is going to be because there's a whole tier now that exists that is just super ridiculous, never before seen power levels. And Blizzard knows this. This is not, we're not like breaking ground here. This isn't like, I feel like maybe Watch Post caught them by surprise because it was kind of an odd mechanic and you actually needed to play the arena and know what's going to happen to do that. But these cards are just flat out numbers wise insane, right? Like they're just nobody looks at it and goes like, oh, this is only going to be a powerful card. Everyone looks at it and goes, this is going to be straight up broken.
If they could guess that Blackwing was going to be powerful,
Yes,
they
exactly.
can guess any of these cards are going to be powerful.
Exactly.
It's like, if you thought Blackwing was powerful, then you look at the Paladin 8/8 Rusher that creates a 5/5 taunt. You're like, oh yeah, is that as good as Blackwing? Yes. Like that is a disgustingly good card. So, yeah, like we basically just need Blizzard to keep doing what they started and then for some reason stop doing with Blackwing. Like I had so much hope. And you know what, with recent events, maybe I'm foolish. I have some hope that they are going to act a little bit faster. They're going to do this stuff. I don't know. Look,
it's gonna be rough. Like it's the holiday season.
Yeah, it's really rough. We're not gonna sit here and say like, obviously, it's like, oh, Blizzard has already messed up. We're saying that we're very apprehensive, right?
Well,
like we are afraid of what is probably going to happen.
Yeah, it's not even that we're afraid of what's probably going to happen. If I put myself in Blizzard's shoes, unless I'm like raising a flag and being like, hey guys, we have to do everything totally different now, which is really hard to do in a large company. Even if Team 5 is a smaller team and Blizzard like tries to be a little nimble, they're not nimble. That just comes with the territory of, you know, being a giant publisher rather than like a small indie company, even though we joke. Like, how are you going to get this through like the corporate chain of command and the people to sign off, and then someone has to like step out with their like reputation and their whatever on the line and be like, hey, we're gonna, even though we said this was a terrible idea to ban 10 cards in the expansion, we're going to go do it now because these are all problematic cards in the arena, even though some people are going to be upset that they're no longer going to get to play with these cards, even though the existence of these cards probably gave weaker players a chance that we're now taking away from them, which game developers hate doing. We're going to do it because otherwise we're going to lose like any semblance of skill past 5 wins in the arena. Who's going to step up and say that? And beyond that, is that even Blizzard's idea? Like, it's unclear to me whether Blizzard is going to, like, whether Blizzard thinks that that is going to be a good idea to do, even if they're fully on board with, like, us on what the problem is with it. Because we're speaking from the perspective of, we want this game to be at least somewhat about skill, like more than up to 5 wins. Like, we don't want the top player in Arena to consistently average 5 wins per run. We think that would be a failure of the Arena mode. We want the top player to average 8 wins per run, even 9 wins per run. And a developer could just be sitting there and being like, I don't know, that 5 win per run is so bad. I think it's a problem if the top players are averaging more than 6 wins per run. So 5 seems like a nice, safe number to be at, so that if we mess up a little, make the game a little too skill-based, because again, nothing's actually balanced for Arena, the cards at least, then they'll still only be at 6, and we still won't have a problem. Maybe that's how Blizzard feels. Like, you know, like, if you look at it from a game developer's perspective, there are so many successful games that follow that model, where you don't let your, like, you don't let your successful players get that successful, because it's not, you shouldn't be able to win that much. So it's unclear what Blizzard's going to do, and to kind of really step out in that direction and to make all these changes. Like, it's one thing for them to passively be like, well, that's how the game turned out, I guess that's fine. It's a different, like, that all the regular players are losing and no new players are joining the arena because they all get their asses handed to them as soon as they step in. And it's a totally different thing to be like, hey, we finally have this set that lowers the skill level of arena so new players can actually play and win a couple games and feel not terrible about themselves. And we're going to ban all those cards. I don't know.
I think it's important to remember as well, because, you know, look, what's our audience? And if you care enough to watch this podcast, you're someone who not only cares about Arena, but you're probably a little bit of a tryhard. You
Mhm.
probably look at HS Replay. You, at some point, at least try to go for the leaderboards, I'm guessing. So this is the audience. And it's easy to think like, okay, so what we are it's easy to just question, it's like, why can't the devs see it our way, right? When we are so right. And it's because you're right if
If your
like
goals are the same, you're
if
right.
your goals are the same. And then is it wrong for the devs to have different goals? No. It's like you can disagree with those goals. The devs can just have completely different goals, and it could be very frustrating.
And I
But
want to say that this doesn't take away from how right you are and how right we are about what's going to happen. It's just about whether Blizzard will actually do something about it.
right. So if you're out there frustrated, and because I see this sentiment as well, it's like,
Hmm.
how can Blizzard not see it in this way? How can they not do this, which is so easily done and just like, well, easily done, number one, and also the just objectively correct thing to do. It's the correct thing to do if the devs' objectives are aligning with your
Yeah,
try hard kind of
if it's
like
competitive,
objectives.
if they want this game
Yes.
to be competitive, and it is unclear that they want to be Arena to be competitive. That is like far from clear.
Yeah, and I think it's important. So once again, this is now more of a therapy session,
Yes.
rather than. But it's one of those things where, as soon as, because I think a lot of people in the community are so frustrated, like, because they're like, I'm frustrated because Blizzard can't do this thing that they should 100% be doing for my benefit and for their benefit. And I think when you realize, like, well, it's obviously for your benefit, right? But their idea of what benefits them and what benefits, really players who are not you is very different. You can hopefully kind of like get some closure there, because there's a lot of frustration and anger. And look, I can disagree a lot, but like at least when I recognize that aspect, I'm like, okay, this could just be for the Timmies out there, more of the casuals. They want, these people that want to sling puzzle boxes every single turn, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that, once again, this is exactly what Blizzard is thinking as well. But once I started thinking of it also in that way, it also just cleared up my mind a little bit. I'm like, okay, look, it's not like the devs are just so stubborn. They can't see it in this way. Why can't they see it in this way? It's like we have a difference of opinion. I obviously think that by not catering, but aiming decisions more towards constructed players, such as these bands, such as a lot of the things I've talked about, is good for the overall health of the game. Other people, such as the devs, might see it differently, but when you see, it's not like they are incompetent or that they just refuse to do it. It's easier as well. So
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah,
easier. Like if
it's much easier.
there's a difference between developing this game from the ground up and then coming up with these ideas, these game design ideas about what would make the game fun. We're going to circle back to this idea of fun. What would make this game fun for these different types of groups of people that we all want to play this game? And come to the reality of the current situation, which is, are we going to go in with our hand and make changes for Arena in order to help one group of players, like us, like the competitive players that want to win 7 wins per run with our skill, 8 wins per run with our skill, versus the some of the other players who maybe would be very happy if they averaged 2 wins instead of 1.5 wins. Even if they know that it's not because of their skill, it's because they plopped down a ridiculous card and their opponent didn't have that ridiculous card. Like, may not be to us a very satisfying win, but to them, maybe it was cool and satisfying. I don't know. It's so hard for me to get into the mindset of it, Timmy. Um, but
So
yeah.
the reason I say this is because, look, I have been encouraging everyone to be like, okay, make your voices heard.
Hmm.
If Blizzard is paying more attention to Arena, then you should express your opinion. And I see
And you
a
should.
lot of Yeah, and you should. And I see a lot of activity over on Arena HS, which I think is great. I think the reason I want to talk about this is because I think a lot of this energy is being put into the kind of thinking that I was warning about as well, where you can't see through that, like, it's a difference of goals and objectives and kind of like incentives rather than, and they just see it as like the devs are incapable of recognizing what is right, and you just get really frustrated and angry because of that. You have to shift it a little bit. It's like, I think our goal right now, what we have to do is convince the devs that, like, by
Yes.
improving aspects of the game geared towards competitive players, you are improving the game
You
overall.
are making the game more fun for
Yes.
everybody, or at least for the
Yes.
people who will play and continue to play this game mode. Maybe not for everybody who touches the game of Hearthstone, but for the people who are getting into Arena, there will be a larger percentage of consistent players in the Arena by maintaining at least this minimum viability of competitiveness at around a 70-75% win rate mark,
Yeah. So
rather
look,
than perhaps a 60-65% win rate for the top player.
for example, right now in the chat, I see people angry. They're like, I'm just gonna read some comments I see in the chat. They're like,
Oh,
fire all of them, fire Ixar. Like, Blizzard is just okay with Arena being more like gambling, blah blah. And look, I want things to change, and I understand. This is exactly the anger I'm talking about. Okay, and I am. Am I happy with the current state of Arena? No, I'm not
no, no,
happy
we
with it.
just
That's why
spent
I'm
like
not
the first
playing.
half of this podcast trashing
Fine.
Arena, and neither of us play Arena right now. That's not true. I play Arena for the
You,
freaking quests. I need to complete the
however,
weekly quest because I don't want to play other stuff, but it's so hard to complete the quests because like I have to play the Arena.
I know. You see that Blizzard is turning some attention to Arena. Whatever effort they're putting out there, whatever chance Arena has of being, quote, fixed, of being improved, etc., I think that this is just the wrong way to go about it. And when I'm saying the wrong way to go about, I'm saying the wrong way to think about it. If you change the way that you view this, I think it changes the way that you try to approach it. As
Mm-hmm.
in, a lot of people have already given up by saying, if Blizzard can't see this, then they can't see anything, right?
Right.
It's like, if they can't see this, then they can't see anything. And it's just like, because, and you think that it's because they can't recognize anything. It's like, no, you have to consider that they recognize it. It's just they don't think that improving the competitive aspects
Mm-hmm.
improves the overall game right
Yep.
now. And my goal right now is to, in some way, like, and I'm hoping that your goal now has changed in some way to convince Blizzard. It's like, look, giving players that carrot of, like, becoming more competitive, like not just puzzle box every single turn, that is healthy for the game, and you are going to attract more players. It's going to be more fun, like seeing top streamers like like Dreads and
Yeah.
Redbeard, who you just had reveal cards, seeing them like being happy with a meta. Also, there's a trickle down effect there as well. So that's where my efforts are going.
Yeah, I don't want to present this as in like we changed our position or anything. I think we've been doing the same exact position for like 2 years, more than 1.5 years, at least 2 years, I think. Where I don't know, I've been bringing the game designer, ever since I was on the Gods Unchained game design team. I've been bringing that game designer perspective into our podcast. So that should be like 3 years. And the last two, I've really focused on it, especially after Blizzard started talking about one, major changes to Arena, and two, not touching the Arena, both at the same time, right? Because I think it was like a year and like almost 2 years ago, when Blizzard announced that they would not be doing anything on the arena for the next year, and also that big changes need to come to the arena in order for it to remain viable, but they have no idea what it is and they don't want to work on it for a year. And I think since that point, this entire podcast, and we have been squarely on the what it takes to be a game developer, right? Like side, rather than necessarily purely what it takes to be a competitive player side, which will always present that perspective because we are competitive players in the arena. But I think we've been, at very even-handed in our at least presenting the perspective from a game designer perspective, not just a competitive player perspective.
Right. So look, I see a lot of energy from people, a lot of just like frustration and anger, and I understand. Like once again, I'm not playing Arena because I'm unhappy with Arena, and I don't need for it to like raise my blood pressure like it's doing with poor Dreads right now. Um, but I think that it's not like it's not over. It's not like Arena can't be fixed, right? We talked
Yeah,
about core set. We talked about we got to do
it's
something about
hard
this
though.
rotation.
It's hard. Like this
It's
is what I
hard. It
mean
is going
with
to be hard.
like before before we saw the Altera cards. The idea is if you Blizzard just kind of leave Arena alone in the elegant state that Arena is, with some, either algorithmic balancing the way they're trying to do Battlegrounds now with the armor system, right? Arena's always had kind of an algorithm of balancing. Um, but you can kind of preserve this limited format, right? This kind of roguelike format that Arena naturally is, that all these limited formats naturally is from MTG onward, and it'll kind of balance itself in some way, and it'll be good. And the like top players will be happy, and the people who would actually be attracted to this kind of game mode will be happy, even if they're not that good. And those are the players that you would want to play this game mode anyway. The people who would not want to play this game mode, why would you want them to play this game mode? You have other game modes. It's not like this is your only game and you're trying to like capture a wide net. This is like something right now hidden inside modes, super hard to get to, like with almost no promotions for it whatsoever. Like this is not the game mode that you need to capture a wide net in. This is the game mode that you just need to make happy the people who like this kind of stuff. Right? That Magic the Gathering popularized, this kind of limited format like idea. So you just have to keep your hands off and do some balancing on like the big picture, right? Now, competitive players, after seeing the Altera cards and our experience, frankly, in this current meta, it is clear that approach won't work. Not to make competitive players happy, at least. If that's all, if Blizzard just follow my suggestions from 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this, no competitive player is going to be happy. Because that's before I knew what the Altera cards are. Now that we see the Altera cards, more things have to be done for the competitive players to be happy. Now, this puts me in a weird position, right? Because you guys know I love elegant systems. I am a freaking philosophy major through and through. I like the zeros and the ones, and I have proposed not doing changes in the arena and just using constructed cards and leaving it alone, and I strongly believe in that. So, this upcoming meta, the Alteric meta, it will be bad. It will range from bad to very bad. And I think we have to recognize, as competitive players, that is the natural state of things. Blizzard did not make it bad, because Blizzard, since day one, has been very clear that no cards are designed for the arena, and they're all designed for constructed or for, like, easing people into constructed or for card collection. They're not balanced for arena, they're not doing whatever for arena. Arena gets offering rate balances, and arena gets card bans, right? To, like, make arena not super terrible. But the design of cards, you can't be like, oh, Blizzard, why would you ever design a card like that? Unless you're speaking from a constructive perspective. Because Blizzard has never designed a card for Arena, right? Like, so what are we talking about? If you're like, why would you design this card? It will kill Arena. Like, they don't care. They very much pointedly, clearly don't care. They say they don't care. This is not a, like, they didn't mess up, right? They're just doing what they've always done and what they've been very clear about. So, this natural state of things with just all of these cards in, and with the Altera cards and the power creep, the ridiculously high power creep that it's happened even over the previous set, is going to mess Arena up. When you add in old sets, it's going to mess Arena up super hard. And that is the natural state of things. So what we're hoping for as competitive players now is a much more tenuous position than where we were before. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we wanted Blizzard to really freaking do their job and balance the arena, like algorithmically or ban certain cards or whatever. We were asking for very reasonable, not super high effort, but like also just kind of like basically maintenance on the arena, right? Competitive maintenance on the arena. After Alterac hits, for the entire remainder of that meta, I don't know what's going to happen with the core set or whatever afterwards, but this problem is going to stay until like for like a year or two until all the cards catch up to this, and if they don't like up the power level again. Until that any of that happens, which is a very long time from now, what we're now asking for has shifted to, hey, remember this elegant game mode that we wanted to preserve and for you to do maintenance on? Well, you have to come here with a heavy hand and ban a dozen cards because these cards are going to destroy your competitiveness in Arena. And I know you didn't intend for any of them to be or not be in Arena because you didn't think about Arena when designing them, but now they're going to be in Arena and they're going to ruin this thing that we do. That's a much bigger ask. You're asking for
Yeah,
intervention now. Like this is different than what we were asking for before. A huge difference
yeah.
between maintenance and intervention.
And I mean, we are definitely not alone here. I can tell you, watching Dread's stream, I think he feels the same way. It's like, I'll talk about it as like the um the Blackwing principle or whatever, if we want a fancy word for it. It's like there's really there's no shame and there's nothing wrong in banning a card before it ever hits arena, or just banning it after you get like 2 days worth of data, right?
Yep.
And with some of the stuff you can just clearly see that's going to be problematic, um it's needed. And it is a little bit definitely like you look at the task in front of us and it's like they banned Blackwing and then they basically didn't ban other cards preemptively, and they definitely acted late banning a lot of other cards
Mm-hmm.
when the outcry was enormous and the data was already there. So that's why we're just like, oh, this is gonna be tough. Like expectations are not super high, but this is absolutely going to be
Yeah,
needed.
I think that's you got
It's
to focus on. This is going to be tough. Blizzard is in a
it's gonna be
terrible,
tough.
terrible position. I don't know who's doing the like in charge decision making. Maybe it's XR. Maybe I think he's like too like high up to actually be the person actually in charge of arena like
I
on
think
the
he's on
ground level.
I think he's on like leave or something right now
Oh, he
as
may
well.
also be on
So
leave,
probably not.
or
Yeah.
whatever. But like whoever it is that is in charge of like making these decisions and then like trying to talk to their manager, who's like the head of the whatever balancing whatever, which is probably XR, and be like, "Hey, I suggest we ban 10 cards or whatever." Like that's a really tough job,
That's really tough. Yeah.
especially when you ban like one card per meta, like at most in history. This is gonna be but it's going to show up in the stats. We're gonna point it out right now. Like this is going to be a terrible meta. Almost all arena players are going to think this is going to be a terrible meta. Like all veteran arena players, I'll say, who are used to the amount of that skill should impact arena.
And once
Um,
again, the little subtext here is assuming that we just get the rotation that we're used to, and
yes.
it doesn't even have to be like a specific like, oh, we have to have like just basically whatever. They're gonna put some old sets in there, and we're gonna have these new sets along with
Yes.
obviously the new expansion.
And I want to
Um,
point out that even if they just did a standard rotation, it would mitigate the problem. But I think the new cards are ridiculous enough that it will still be a very noticeable problem. Like I
right.
don't think it goes away if they just do standard. I think it helps a lot.
It would be better.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it
would be
would be
better.
like maybe like 25 to 30% better than it would in the current meta for the current rotation, for example. But it wouldn't be like they wouldn't have like solved half the problem.
Yes. So this is us saying like we're guaranteed to have a bad meta, assuming that all of these factors are, like consistent with what we are expecting. As in Blizzard just does the status quo. Um, yeah, and I think like you'll find fairly universal agreement on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not like because here's the thing. You see people get it quote like wrong in constructed a lot, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
they just miss out completely And for example, what was one of the biggest misses in constructed? I think Quest Rogue, right? Quest Rogue or Corridor Creeper. People just missed out on that,
Oh
and then
yeah,
that just
corridor
becomes
creeper.
the yeah. I mean, that just like becomes the meta, and then everything shapes around it. But the arena is, for a limited format in which people think that things are all crazy and up in the air. Um, it is much less organic than constructed, because constructed really is the meta, right? Like people create a deck, something gets popular, people try to find a way to combat that. And the choices that you're able to make, it really is an organic meta. People create something, and obviously, some cards are stronger than others, so they're going to be more likely to be picked. But there is this ebb and flow. There's not really this ebb and flow in Arena. There's
Mm-hmm.
a figuring out period, and then there is
Yep.
a optimization period. So instead of an ebb and flow like you have in constructed, it's figuring out and the optimization. And a lot of the figuring out can be done fairly quickly now, especially with the really good cards. And then the
Mm-hmm.
optimization, well, that doesn't really matter when you have these really good cards. So you can see that like it I think some people are too used to like this constructed thing where it's like, well, look, Hearthstone players shouldn't be able to say like it's going to be really bad or it's going to be really good in this way because like they were wrong, right? They were wrong, going into like Doctor Boom and how it
Mm-hmm.
was just
Well, the
BGH.
arena players are like, I've presented our track record. We're right, like almost always. In the
Yeah,
entire history of arena, we're right like 90% plus, maybe even 95% plus of the time on top cards. Like we're not
right.
perfect, but it's a really high rate.
And the consensus among the community is a lot of the times fairly consistent,
Yeah,
especially among like the top players.
yeah.
So like you'll rarely get one of those times in which like everybody misses on the road quest.
Mm-hmm.
Just everyone not really missed, but was like pretty quiet on Corridor Creeper, which gave us one of the best Hearthstone memes of all time. So I'm kind of thankful for that. Everyone wrote off Dr. Boom as just food for BGH, so they were like going to be useless, and they thought Trogdor was going to be amazing. That was like the original, like huge miss from like everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the OG, just sort of like God Trogdor versus Dr. Boom, and everyone was on the Trogdor train. Arena just isn't like that, so if you're out there and you're a constructed player and you hear it's like no, like Hearthstone players get it wrong a lot, and you can't say a meta is going to
Arena
be in this
analysis. Yeah,
way.
top arena
Arena
players
analysis
consensus. Does we do
is
not?
very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very, very consistent.
Because it's math. Like it's
It's
not
math.
meta. I mean, it's a little
Yeah,
meta, but it's mostly math.
right. It's like you get to pick random cards and you get all of this, but you are far, far more constrained than
Mm-hmm.
constructed players, like who have the freedom to do anything to craft their decks. And um, this is the appeal of constructed, right? It is,
Mm-hmm.
and the meta itself is an organic thing. It's constantly changing. People
Yeah,
tweak, change one
exactly.
or two
Like,
cards, and suddenly, they're beating everybody with these like
mm-hmm.
tweaks, and then people pick up on that, and then they respond as well. And suddenly, like this brand new deck comes in that just beats everyone. People are like, "Oh, how do I miss that?" It's like nobody's missing how good Righteous Defense is to draft. Nobody's missing how
Yeah.
good like when Watch
And
Post was
even
out.
if you like miss it and you say, "Oh,
Yeah,
this is only A minus tier," and someone else is like, "No, this is S tier," you're still gonna pick it against ninety nine
you're still
percent of
gonna
the
pick it,
options
right?
when it's presented to you. So you'll end up with it in your deck, and you're gonna play with it the same way, you know. So I like to present this. I'm gonna put a far out there metaphor. Uh, the difference between constructed and arena when it comes to how cards are evaluated is like Iron Man versus Doctor Strange. So in
Okay.
constructed, stay with me for now. So in constructed, the idea of what you're trying to create is like this Iron Man ecosystem where you come in with a deck, an idea that you think is going to work, your latest and best suit, and then you throw it out, and then it gets screwed over. Like you get electrocuted, something happens, and then you create another version of that suit that solves the previous problem that you just met with. Iron Man consistently does it. That's why suit has series. You know, the suit one, suit two, suit three. I think he was on like suit like I don't know, like 40 something or something by Endgame. That's constructed. And some players like doing that. Some players like to be able to fix their problems and fix their little project and to actually get better against the meta. Arena is more like Doctor Strange. There is this natural fundamental rules of nature, logic, whatever you want to call it. You are just understanding more and more of it. And as you understand more and more of it, you're just able to do more things. You're just better at predicting stuff. You're just better at playing the game and knowing what is good and what is bad. Those are two fun. They're both like you look at the characters, right? And they're like both like smart people who are arrogant and doing whatever. But the constructed player, the game is catered and centered around a tinkerer, or like someone who copies someone else who's a tinkerer. Right, like a net deck. But that's how constructed in theory should be. That's the game design. As a game designer, that's what I'm modeling it after. Whereas limited formats, you can't tinker. You can tinker very, very little, and it probably won't solve the problem you had before because you're probably not seeing that problem again because it's limited format. Instead, you're just trying to figure out the fundamental truths, and that will make you more powerful. Now, the problem, of course, is that when things get out of hand, you can always tinker to counter. But when the fundamental truth is just that I lose, I'm still going to lose no matter how much I understand that I'm going to lose and why I'm going to. Like, if you just don't give me that much power, I'm just going to lose. I can't tinker and I can't counter. Those are not tools that are in the arena, like, set. It is to a game designer, it's possibly a fundamental weakness of the arena design, but for people who like arena, this is an asset. It means I will never be forced to tinker in that way. I will just need to be able to understand the truth better, and that is the best way to improve in the arena. And that's what I like. I'm a truth seeker. I like to understand the truth.
You know what? That analogy turned out better than I expected. I thought that was just going to be terrible. Like, I am usually very, very down on your analogy. I'm not saying that was the best one I've ever heard, but for you, that was pretty good. I followed that. I mean, I'm also like, like we both like have watched all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's true.
We both enjoy them, so like I understood that. I like that. Like
I felt like it was time for me to throw one of these analogies in. I mean, it wasn't monkeys in the jungle, but it was. I thought it worked.
Well, the monkeys with the jaguars?
Yeah, with the jaguars.
I've literally never understood that analogy.
Oh, that was a perfect analogy.
That wasn't perfect. Okay. But anyways.
Our listeners who have been listening to this podcast for 5 years will hopefully remember that analogy. I love that analogy. That's probably my favorite analogy I've ever made on this podcast, by the way.
I don't understand any of it, so I can't comment on it. I literally can't comment because it was the most confusing thing I've ever heard. But this was a good one. I liked it. Because they, like, chat also talked about, it's like they are both adaptive. I'm like, yes, they're both adaptive. And they do it in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the fact that like one is more of a tinkerer and one is just acquiring this almost like knowledge soup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through this knowledge soup, you just are able to do more things. You are able to just become more powerful. Meanwhile, the other one, it's not like that they're not acquiring knowledge. They are also acquiring knowledge. But yeah, it is more like I'm presenting this finished product.
Yep.
I'm presenting this next finished product. I'm presenting this next finished product. And you obviously have to go from your previous experience to know what the next model has to be like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty good. Pretty good analogy. Not bad.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you. I think that I think we talked a lot about what's going to happen. And I just want to make sure everyone's prepared. That's really the point of this podcast. Merps called it a therapy session. It's a little pessimistic view, but probably the odds-on view is that Blizzard is not going to do what the arena community wants Blizzard to do this time around. Right. They were slow about it before, but they've mostly, like Ysera aside, they've mostly done what the arena community wanted sooner or later.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know that this is going to happen. This just we're moving from maintenance to hand on the scale in favor of competitive players.
It's a big ask.
Yeah.
It's a big ask, and it's on a scale in which we've never asked for this much, and they've never given this
They've
much.
barely given the maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. The maintenance has been already, I think, admittedly, a little bit slow to
Hmm.
anyone's liking. Not just like competitive players'
Yeah.
likings, to just anybody's liking. But once again, look, if there's one thing to take away from me, because I know when we talk about this, and I saw in the chat, people are angry, people are frustrated,
Hmm.
and it goes to this like very defeated attitude. Is like Blizzard just doesn't get it, and they will never get it. And I think the what I want people to take away is like Blizzard may never see it in our way or
Hmm.
this way or your way. Like our ways might never like yours, you the listener, and mine might never align. And our, if it is the same viewpoint, might never align with Blizzard. But it's not because Blizzard sees it in the same way that we do and is just too dumb or too stubborn to do it in that way. It's because they see it probably in a different way. And I understand. I said it's like, we got to convince them. They're just like, well, why can't they just, kind of see it in our, like this
Well,
way and
I don't
recognize
even
that
think
it's
that Blizzard
superior?
is saying that. I think like Blizzard knows we won't see it in their way, as in like
Right,
even if we like recognize like we knowledge wise intellectually can see it in their way, we would not agree with them, right? Because we're competitive players. It's like
right.
if I don't know, let's say like if I'm a storm owner and I'm getting robbed and I'm like, hey, I understand you need to feed your family. I still don't want to get robbed. Like just because I understand, like I may not like super hate you the way I would if I didn't understand, but like I'm still like, don't rob me. Like,
Yeah. Look,
even if your family starves, don't rob me. Like,
okay,
find some
so
other way.
once again, that analogy worse than the one that you. We're back to the typical quality of your analogies. All right, but good job on the Marvel one. That I thought that was well thought out and like pretty clever. This one, all right, yeah, we're back to your typical one. But yes, look, what I want to tell people is that if you just want to be angry, you can. That it just like doesn't accomplish anything. And is there a chance that nothing will get done? Yes. I would say it's like a high chance as well.
High chance,
But
probability.
um it certainly helps my point of view when you just look at it in the way that I outlined. And I think that there is a shot for Arena to see improvements. Now, like once again, if you have like a list of like, okay, Arena has to be able to do these 24 things and have these 24, like sweeping changes in order for me to be happy with things. All right, we're probably not going to get that. Um, However, with all this energy I'm seeing, if you actually want change, I think you need to flip your mindset from
Yeah.
this Blizzard
Hmm.
is so incompetent because they can't see what is good for them into this other kind of like, okay, we need to try to convince them that more catering towards or more
Yes.
decisions that make the lives of competitive players better is overall better for the game.
Here's exactly why I think this is more true
Yes.
now than ever. All the game modes exist. Everything exists. This is no longer launch Hearthstone. And right now, you should not be looking at the data of everybody who clicks the arena button and looking at that retention. You should be making policies to let the people who are being retained a bit remain retained. Like, if these are players that are also playing, I don't know, duels or battlegrounds or like ranked, I'm not saying we wouldn't welcome them in the arena, but maybe let's not cater to them as hard. And let's cater to the people who may quit your game altogether or who may never, really get into your game if there's not an environment for these types of people. And understood that these types of people Blizzard probably thinks is a small minority of their possible player base. But that's okay because you have other game modes to do what the majority wants. You have other game modes to capture all these different other types of players. And
Yep.
Arena does not need to focus on that, nor is it very well set up to focus on that. And which is why I think a lot of the things that they've, tried in Arena in one way or the other have, I mean, there's many reasons they failed. The initiatives that they proposed failed. But by keeping it focused on the skill players and hopefully by lowering the barrier of entry and the rewards as well. Because, like, let's face it, if you're there for a competition of skill, you don't need that many rewards. You just need like some rewards.
Yeah.
And the barrier of entry is quite frightening. This game mode still requires a crap ton of gold to start playing. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if Blizzard can be convinced to see things that way, as in that is the future of the arena, then we may have an alignment between the arena community and the team actually developing the arena balancing, or I guess arena rules, or the arena whatever, right? Like that team is.
Yeah. So look, uh, it's interesting because part of this arena segment, if you just listen to it, you might think it's like, oh, they have like no hope for the arena because they guarantee that the next meta is going to suck, assuming that these things stay true. Which, yes, I can basically guarantee it. I think if you ask like anybody who
Yeah.
plays or watches the arena, and they're like, yeah, it's because arena is very predictable.
Hmm.
So it's not us being pessimistic. It's just us kind of looking at it and being like, because arena is so predictable, this is the way it is going to be. And it's like, I mean, we're going to be like 99% accurate. But at the same time, it's like that doesn't mean we've like given up or that it's like it's impossible to solve. We're just recognizing how hard it is to solve,
Yeah.
but we are hoping that like efforts and effort is made to kind of like fix it. Because if we just do go with the status quo,
Yeah. This is gonna be so bad.
you're gonna
Yeah.
chase all the arena people away. Like as of right now, I am on an arena break. I'm not like done with it, I'm on an arena break. But if it keeps going in this way, then I
Yeah.
think you literally chase
I mean,
everybody
yeah, you
away.
chase everyone. It's not just gonna be you. Like it's all these players. You can't keep playing a mode that's going to become ridiculous, right? Like if, for example, if this meta just didn't change or changed and was similarly competitive, aka non-competitive, every like month or two, and this happens for like 2 years, you're really not going to have any of the people who are streaming Arena right now and playing it seriously still around playing Arena. They're all going to jump to something else, even if it's within Hearthstone. Right? They're still going to jump. Like I
Yeah.
know I certainly would jump so hopefully they do something, because like I hate dual class. I absolutely hate it. It makes everything terrible, for me. But the problems in the current meta is very small part of it is related to dual class. Most of it is related to things that will be there in the next meta and only made worse because the Altera cards are going to have a more negative effect than dual class is having.
Yep. Okay. Look, I think we've said this enough. I've said like the same thing 3 times, but I just think it's that important. And I
Yeah.
think that there's some nuance in it. And some of you guys are, just like aggro smork players who I really need to beat it into your heads. All right. If all you do is click face, then I gotta say it to you 3 times. But let's talk about something else then. Do you have anything more to talk about with Arena? Because
No,
we're
no.
obviously not doing our card stuff until
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess that's what I want to talk about right now. Tune in to our card review because even though the meta is going to be horrible, you want to check out the cards, and you'll need to know which cards to check out and which cards do what, and which cards are those ridiculously powerful S tier cards that we've been kind of hinting at here. And we flat out announced 2 S tier cards last stream, but more are coming probably. I don't know. I haven't mapped them out. We haven't talked about it. But yeah, definitely check it out. This is going to be one of the most exciting card review streams that we've done recently. Only because these cards are the most
they're so
exciting
ridiculous. Yeah.
cards. I'm excited for next Sunday. And if you're going to try to tune in live, it's going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh
That is
wow. Okay.
4 hours before our normal stream time. And we're
Oh
doing
my
that
god.
because we're trying to finish before midnight.
Okay.
for the
Yeah.
first time
I
ever.
forgot we were starting so early.
Yeah,
Damn.
because you told me that you did not want this to finish past midnight, and you were like serious about it this time, unlike the other
Well,
times.
there's no need, and we don't because we needed. Yeah, you know, it just makes sense. Like when we had the algorithm and the tiering list, we needed all of that computing time, right? We needed
Yes.
all of that
Yes.
time
We
to
were
actually.
literally like computing the last legendary cards during the reveal stream.
Yeah. So this just makes sense. We'll start at 3 p.m. And that would alleviate things by a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. So that's it for Arena. For BGs, Diablo is going away on Tuesday. Yay. This is good
Mm-hmm. That
because
was like a
okay.
surprise announcement, but apparently was not supposed to be a surprise because they knew about it from even before that. I didn't really like get it.
Yeah. Well, look, Blizzard has stated from the very beginning that Diablo is a temporary hero, right?
Yeah.
So they announced it, and then Blizzard stated that like, hey, look, this wasn't. You know, we want you guys to know this wasn't because of the outcry. Like this was always the plan. It just happened to coincide with literally everybody. Like Dog, Slissa, Victor, XD, XQN, blah blah blah. Like literally everybody. Oh, Sun Glitters posted this hilarious clip of her facing Diablo. So there's 7 people left in the lobby. And she is like guaranteed to die because Diablo has like giant things. And she's like, okay, I'm dead. She's like, how many people do you think are gonna die? And she's like, I think everybody's gonna die. And people are like, no, it's like, you know, maybe 2, maybe 3. Literally everyone dies. Diablo kills all 6 other people in the lobby on that turn. And I think that just goes to show kind of why people it's an extreme example, but it just shows why people hated Diablo. So look, Diablo's gone. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy. I might play BGs again. It's just weird. Like I'm not playing BGs because of Diablo. I'm not playing Arena because of just all the Fiesta stuff going
But you
on.
are playing Diablo.
Well, oh, sorry, I'm playing the superior Diablo, Diablo Resurrected. Yes, I'm very much so playing Diablo, just not in BGs.
What's going on with Diablo? By the way, so it's a quick tangent. Is leaderboards coming anytime soon? Is it still crashing on you every hour? I haven't played Diablo in like a
Oh, Diablo
month.
2
Yeah,
Resurrected?
Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Yeah. Look, it crashes on me sometimes. It doesn't
Okay,
crash
it's
every
better.
hour now. It crashes like once every 10 hours, which
Okay,
is like a lot better.
okay.
A
Still
lot
not
better.
hardcore viable, but better.
Yeah, and no news of ladder. In
Okay,
fact, the next patch that's coming out, they're saying that like, oh, we're gonna use that information to, or we're using the current information to just sort of stabilize
I
things, and
see.
then we're
Okay,
gonna talk
yeah,
about ladder.
fine.
But people are now looking at that and being like, okay, so we won't have it anytime this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, if we were to have it, we had to have it soon, such that you can't start on ladder on like
yeah,
December 18th or
yeah.
something,
That
right?
makes no
That's
sense.
stupid.
All
So,
right.
no D2R on ladder until next year, which is like, I was hoping we would have one, but with the
I'll
amount of
join in
crashes they had
once hardcore ladder becomes a potentially okay thing to do and exist.
and exists, yes, it has to exist first. But look, that's where we're at, guys. Make sure to tune in for the card review. Um, check out BGs if you were avoiding BGs like I was. I'll
Yeah.
probably be checking out BGs without Diablo in there because if you watch like the top players, a lot of them after they heard that Diablo was going away Tuesday, they're like, you know, their guess is that the meta is going to be really, really good.
Hmm.
So we'll see how it is. I'm looking forward to it. Playing my like super low MMR games, maybe stomping people, maybe getting stomped. We'll see. Maybe I'll stream it a little bit, but certainly a change from now in which I have no appetite for arena and no appetite for BGs at all.
Mercs, man, Mercs is where it's at. I've almost got all of my hero Mercs to pass task 7.
I I
Almost.
I can't believe no. I can't do it. You and PJ are just a bunch of weirdos. I cannot do it. All
I
right.
like the PVE better than the PvP, honestly. Like the
That's true. You and
PvP,
PJ are not the same at
no,
all. like you're all about like the well, you're not casual though. You play it a lot, but you're more about that casual experience of just
Yeah.
like, oh man, I want to grind and
Lie
all that
down on my
stuff.
sofa, hang out with the wife while she watches something, and I'm just on my phone.
Yeah, I can't do that. Like I would need for there to be some sort of I only see Hearthstone as a PvP thing, like as a competitive thing.
Hmm.
But then I just don't like the competitive aspect of Mercs. So
I mean, the competitive aspect of Mercs needs work. They're clearly not even close to finished with what would be a compelling PvP experience.
yeah, and that's fine. Like it just came out. We talked about this before. It's
Hmm.
like the first iteration of BGs was
Yep.
problematic in so many ways.
Yep.
Like, BGs was actually just kind of like MacGyvered, right? It was literally MacGyvered, and you had all these cards that were from the original
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
like Zubat, Menagerie Magician. Remember all of that
Sneeds
stuff?
that was there for like another
Needs,
year, two
yeah.
years. I don't even know how long
Sneeds
Sneeds
was
was in there
there, and it
for.
made absolutely no sense because it's like not the tiers; they were actually
Yeah,
the
they're
mana.
actually the
So
mana cost.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that game mode at the beginning, it was fun, but it was very flawed. And now look at it. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, don't look at it right now. Look at it after Diablo gets
Look
removed.
at it in
But
two
now
days.
look at it generally. So,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still excited about what Mercs has to bring. So I'm just setting up on the PvP side. But right now, I mean, it is what it is. It's like a pitch for what the PvP mode could potentially be, right? Like, here's the bones to it.
okay.
All right.
All right. That's it. We're gonna be gearing up for the big card review stream. You guys can come make some bets on how many S tier cards you think there are gonna be. I'm
That
in.
would be a good bet. I don't know.
Right?
I mean, we don't know
I don't know
yet.
yet.
But we'll see. That I don't know what I would bet actually. We'll see.
You
Okay.
know there's gonna be at least one.
There's gonna be at least two,
There's gonna be at least two,
minimum of two.
exactly. Yep.
But I don't know how that number is gonna climb. Hopefully it won't hit 10. We'll see though. We'll see.
I
Okay.
don't know. I honestly don't know because I personally haven't seen all of the cards yet.
I haven't
So
seen all the
yeah.
cards either. I've just seen cards people have been sending me, and it's one after one that I'm like, oh yeah, oh wow, really? Oh yeah, oh wow, really? Oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. Okay, that's just been my experience with the
Yeah.
new cards.
And some cards I have to or I do a double take and then I'm like, I would need time to really look at this. Like the 9 mana mage spell, which casts 20
Yeah,
mana of mage spells. I'm like,
no, not even
I'm
thinking
like,
about that one.
yeah, I was like, what mage spells are there? Like what mage spells are there? And that is like purely rotation dependent,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can have certain rotations in which that is really good, and certain rotations in which you're just like, I don't want to be casting this stuff, or
Although
your
to be
chances of casting it.
fair, if you like don't want to cast mage spells, mage is probably unplayable because it targets
Uh,
enemies if possible too.
yeah. Well, the I guess one of the problems is if there's like too much double-sided board clear versus like
Okay.
no double-sided board clear, like double-sided versus completely single-sided board clears. That's like a pretty strong kind of like a
Yeah.
delineation, right? That you want
Yeah,
to
that's
be able to
fair.
consider. All right. That's it.
See you guys next week. Shout out to our Patreons, patreon.com/grinandgoat. We'll be giving a lot more shout outs on our stream slash video slash, I guess it's still a podcast, for next week on the Fractured in Alteric Valley card review stream. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See you guys.